New Shimano Ultegra looks great, has all the functionality of Dura-Ace on paper, but how does it ride? Now, as I said in the first look video, for me one of the most significant changes with this new Ultegra Groupset was in the ergonomics, particularly of the hydraulic levers. So you can of course get used to anything, but these new ones have a smaller diameter and a shorter reach. So aesthetically it's better, but actually most importantly of all, the way it feels in your hand is also a big step forward. And particularly the fact that hydraulic options now feel pretty much the same as the rim brake versions, because there are still a lot of people out there that need to be converted to disc brakes, and actually the lever feel has been one of the biggest stumbling blocks. And so now you can get the same racy feel but with improved braking performance. Now, one of the functions that carries over from Dura-Ace Di2 to Ultegra Di2 is the synchro and semi-synchro shift functions. So you can turn them on and off simply by double clicking on the button on the function box, handily located on this BMC right up at the top of the down tube. And when you switch synchro shift on, what you're effectively doing is handing over the control of your front derailleur to your Di2, a job which it does admirably well, it has to be said. Now, a common misconception is that it turns your gears into a sequential sequence. So in order to do so, it would then have to change gear at the front all the time. So fortunately, it doesn't do that. And what it does instead is it will change your chainring at an intuitive point when you shift up or down the rear cassette. So effectively, it will change gear less. And then semi-synchro is when you have control over your shifting at your front, but then when you do change chainrings, it will make a compensation shift up or down at the back, so therefore lessening the difference between your gear change. And it's a job that most experienced riders would do intuitively, but in this case, you wouldn't have to. So one less job to think about, or just really good for less experienced riders. Now, one of the other super cool functions that's new to Ultegra Di2 is the inclusion of hidden buttons on your shifters. Now, they're not terribly well hidden exactly, nor are they very secret. They're located right at the top of the shifter, just up here. Now, the reason they're called hidden buttons is because they're actually launched onto a previous Dura-Ace Di2 version, and when they were launched, they didn't actually do anything. It was future-proofing, because now you can connect your Di2 via Bluetooth to your phone, and on your phone you can have the Shimano eTube app. That means you can then customize the functionality of your Dura-Ace. So you can do all sorts of different things. Personally, I'd leave the function of all the buttons alone, except for these two on the top. Now currently, I've got mine set up to shift up or down gears on the cassette, up with my left thumb and down with my right thumb. But things get really exciting when you learn that you can connect third-party devices. So you could set those buttons up to scroll through screens on your head unit, which is pretty cool, or indeed even switch certain lights on or off. That is smart technology that I can get behind. I like that. Well, you'll be pleased to see, I'm sure, that I have stopped riding up that hill and have now managed to get my breath back. In my defense, it was a steep climb. Back to the Ultegra though, so we don't test products here on GCN. Many people assume that we do, but we don't. But having said that, I don't feel like I can ride this bike with this group set without at least trying to describe how it feels to perform in comparison to Dura-Ace. So here we go. The functionality of the Di2 derailleurs is the same. The functionality of the mechanical derailleurs is the same. The chainring's the same, the cassette the same, and also the chain the same. So the shifting performance is absolutely on a par with Dura-Ace. And I wanted to check this, so I asked one of the engineers whether or not there were any design differences between the two. So perhaps the placement of the shifting pins and the ramps on the chainrings was different on Ultegra. And he said, no, they're absolutely identical. The difference comes in the materials used, which means that Dura-Ace ends up being lighter, so by about 500 grams or so. But the functionality of these two group sets is the same, and I think that is a really important point. I finished the first look video by saying that Shimano Dura-Ace and now this new Shimano Ultegra have implications on your bike much further and wider than just the group set itself. And the reason being is that the chain rings, the pitch of the chain rings has changed by 0.4 millimeters. And that has meant that Shimano have now allowed manufacturers to design their disc brake bikes with chainstays that are 10 millimeters shorter. So that's this bit here. And it doesn't sound like much, but actually that has a huge bearing on the way your bike feels to ride. So previously, a rim brake bike and a disc bike felt different to ride, and that change was principally down to your chainstay length. But now that has gone, so you can design a disc brake bike that feels as racy and as nimble as a rim brake bike, because although chainstays don't move, they're every bit as important in the way your bike feels to ride as all the geometry around your handlebars and your steering. So they affect the way a bike feels as you turn into a corner, and importantly of all for me, they affect the way the bike feels when you get out of the saddle to ride. So this group set and the Dura-Ace group set now mean that your disc brake bike can feel as fun as a rim brake bike. That's pretty cool if you ask me. Right, do make sure you subscribe to GCN before leaving this video. To do so, just click on the globe, it's completely free. And if you want some more content, I'm sure if you haven't seen it already, you'll be wanting to see the first look of Shimano Ultegra R8070. So that one is just down there. Or how about a little bit more about the Dura-Ace group set? Released last year, the first look video is just down there.